Welcome to another episode of the Managing Happiness Show, the podcast where we interview successful entrepreneurs on how to manage to have a happy family life while dealing with the madness of entrepreneurship. I'm David Henzel, your host, and I'm very happy to have Kim Walsh-Phillips on the show. Kim is an award-winning speaker, author, and podcaster, and the CEO of Elite Digital Group, a direct response social media agency. Kim has 2 kids, is married, and I'm very curious to hear how she's managing work-life integration. Thank you for coming on the show, Kim.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and honor.
In preparation of this podcast, I listened to your Entrepreneur on Fire interview.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago, yeah. And you talked about the baby effect with JLD, and would be great if you could share how you became a better entrepreneur because of having your kids in your life.
The first 10 years of my business, I worked really hard and I was completely broke. And there are a lot more fun ways to be broke than working all of the time. It was kind of like, you ever go into a room and it smells terrible, but in about 10 minutes, you no longer notice the smell? That was kind of like what my life was like. It was terrible, but I had gotten so used to it that I just kept it going.
Frog in boiling water type of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I went to networking events all the time trying to get my next client. I volunteered for every committee just hoping to be noticed. I was spending all my time doing proposals, would get clients, would always compromise on price, and then would struggle to get the work done with the little bit of money we were getting, always needing to get another client to pay the bills that I currently owed. And I kept going like that for 10 years until I had my first daughter, Bella. And Bella was what I didn't know at the time, but now I know, she was colicky, which meant she cried all the time. But I had figured out that if I put her in her little pack and play and I shoved it against the refrigerator, that the hum of the refrigerator would make her sleep. So she's finally sleeping, and I proceed to do some normal life tasks, and I start opening up my mail. And in the silence of the quiet room that I can just hear the hum of the refrigerator, I start to cry because my bank just informed me that they weren't going to cover my overdraft anymore. And I had relied upon that in order to make payroll for a really long time. What I would do is write my payroll check. The check would generally take my account into negative, and then I would hustle to try to make another sale just to cover my negative account, never accumulating any wealth and never having any security. But when my daughter was born, I couldn't go out and just go hustle for another client. I couldn't do things the ways I had always done them. And I'm a woman of faith, and I believe I was put in that situation on purpose so that something would change. I call it my light moment. We all have this moment where we have this, some people call it their aha, but for me, it really was light. I needed light to shine on something that was so dark, I was ignoring it, and how painful it was what I was doing. And it was pretty amazing because I prayed. That's all I could do. I couldn't go out and hustle. I had no funds. I had no inheritance and no VC funding. I had only played the lottery 4 times in my life, so I had no chance of winning big earnings. And a friend of mine gave me a book. And it was Dan Kennedy's No BS Direct Response Marketing book. And I was blown away because what this guy, Dan, shared was you could use marketing to bring results. You could use marketing to get people to pay you more, to get better clients, to go to new markets, to be seen as the expert. And these are things I had never thought was even possible. I started to use the strategies I learned in Dan's book, and they began to work so well that I was able to grow my agency, increase our client count, increase our revenue 327% while working from home, just having my daughter, not having to go to another networking event again. I got to meet Dan eventually, the guy who wrote that book, who, by the way, hated social media, but I got to meet him and show him how I used what I learned from him on Facebook. He was impressed how I took his strategies. He began to give us clients, And I eventually wrote my my first book with him, which is the No BS Guide to Direct Response Social Media Marketing. It made it to not only bestseller, but it's his best-selling book of all time now. We've sold
that's so awesome.
much. Yeah, we've sold so much that we satisfied his advance. I now get royalty checks on it, and Entrepreneur Press has given me a multi-book contract. So my most recent book with them is The Ultimate Guide for Instagram for Business. So my daughter's birth, not only was it an incredible blessing because of the love and purpose it brought into my life, but it also forced me to change the horror, which was the way that I operated my business.
That's an amazing story, and it's has been so true for me as well. Like from the hard times, I always learned the most, and meanwhile, I'm even welcoming problems that come into my life that I have to solve, because it's always this giant opportunity to turn it around into something way more positive. You know, at MaxCDN, my previous business, we've been hacked at some point. You know, and first of all, like, you know, holy cow. But then I just accepted it, that, you know, this is the case. We have to get through this somehow. And, you know, we managed, of course, even though it was scary, but we went through it, and we got so much better because of this. We developed so many tools that this cannot happen again, and also protecting our clients from these things to happen, which gave us a real advantage in the market, you know. So we landed a lot of deals because of this feature set that we developed due to this hack, right? And it's also, you can't really control what's happened to you in your life, but you're in full control on how you view it and what kind of actions you take afterwards, right? If you grow from these challenges, or if you, you know, if you crumble under them, right? A friend of mine said that's really well. He said, we all go through fire, and we have to choose if we're wood and we burn down, or if we're a precious metal that gets refined through these experiences. You know, so
that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's really cool. I heard on the JLD interview also that you talk about your mission, and your mission being, I don't know if your mission has changed since then. It was so companies stop burning their advertising dollars. I think you said advertising victims, and monetize their marketing. Is your mission still the same?
It is. We've refined it that my mission is to multiply the mission of other businesses by giving them the opportunity to reach the world with profitable marketing. So it's focused on my why being their why. And
that's very clever.
Those first 10 years, I struggled so bad, and I was a student. I sought something different. I knew I didn't know how to fix it. I kept trying harder, and what I needed to do was to do something different and to realize what that was. It wasn't about me running faster up the mountain or doing longer runs or better sneakers. I actually needed to find an entirely different path to get to the destination I was seeking. And my goal and mission is to reach as many businesses as I can to tell them that story. I had this somewhat spiritual experience about a year ago, and I had a vision that I would reach 10,000 businesses and help them realize that they too can accomplish marketing without having a marketing budget, without having money, without having resources, and without having to bang their head against the wall. They could achieve their business goals, and they didn't need to beat themselves up anymore, that they had purpose and they deserved to be paid for it, and they had value. And it seemed so bizarre to me that would be possible. But I wrote it down, and I was thinking this was going to be my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal that I was going to accomplish 10 years from now. And what's been amazing is we have, since that time, developed a social media funnel that starts with Facebook fans of all things and drives immediately into a sale, and has delivered profits in a campaign for businesses who have no marketing budget. We've already served in the last 90 days 6,200 people. So before the year is out, I will have served that 10,000 that I didn't even think was possible. And my goal is to tell all of them so that they can then go and tell others. Yeah, and I think about that butterfly effect when I tell them, and if they just each tell 2 people and they tell 2, it's amazing what can be done. So I think our responsibility when that light is shown on our lives of something that is dramatically impacts us in a way that brings us peace and prosperity, we need to share with other people so that they can have that same epiphany moment.
That's really awesome. Must be also very gratifying, make you very happy and feel fulfilled by doing this. And it's numerous things that you just brought up, brought numerous questions to my mind that I want to ask you. In terms of mission, you have your clear mission for your business, which is really awesome, by the way. I'm a huge mission vision geek for businesses because I think it makes such a big impact if you have a right mission and vision that you follow. I didn't have this in the beginning of my previous business, and then we implemented it and we really took off. So I really know how it is without a mission and how well it works when you have a mission that you can follow. Do you have a mission for your personal life that is somewhat different, or maybe for your family?
For our family, it's similar in that we want to do that for others, not just for businesses. So my goal is to use my gifts to serve others so that they may be blessed and in turn serve others. So that is our family mission. And that's the prayer I have with my daughters every morning at the bus stop before they get on the bus, that they may be blessed and in turn bless others while they're at school until they return home and we can do it again. So that's our prayer every day. I think what we all need to realize is that we were given incredible gifts that are unique to us, truly unique. There's a reason why fingerprints are different. And we tend to ignore that fact, why we all have a unique fingerprints, because we truly are unique. And that is on purpose. We were each given incredible gifts that are meant to be part of an overall ecosphere. And if we try to emulate someone else, we are ignoring what we were created to do. But if we can recognize what we were created to do and use that gift to serve others and so that they can in turn serve others, we stop thinking of things like buying and selling, and we start thinking of things as though all that we do to accomplish our entrepreneurial goals is to serve. And it's an incredible way to grow your empire in a way that's built on trust and relationships versus transactions.
That's really beautiful and inspiring. It's really cool. I also had the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today is I also had my wake up moment, my aha moment. It was when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I'm sorry.
Three and a half years ago or so. And this really shook me to my core. Both of my parents died from cancer. So this was like really, holy cow. And when this happened, I envisioned me on my deathbed, looking back at my life, thinking, did I really do what I was supposed to do? Did I have the impact that I want to have in the world? And did I really follow my path before I just followed the path of, I don't know, the quote unquote, the American dream of like, oh, I have to amass as much money as possible. And I will be magically happy if I hit some random number of money in my bank account. And I always want to have similar to what you just said, I want to have an impact in people's lives and improve other people's lives. And with my last business, I was improving and having an positive impact on my employees' lives, but not in the bigger picture. So I decided that it makes sense for me to sell the business and focus on something else that can have a bigger impact. And I thought long and hard about what this could be. And then, it's like always the personal gifts that you have, or the experience that you have, that then you can share with others. For me, it was my wife and I have always been struggling with my crazy work schedule and my obsession with work, kind of giving 110% at work and hoping that family magically somehow works, and, caused a lot of headache and pain between us. And we figured out at some point too, if we apply business principles to our personal life, that everything becomes much easier. Kind of having clear roles and responsibilities, having a family mission, family core values, having regular meetings, and all that stuff. And this worked so well for us that I started doing Managing Happiness. I put together a course and a framework how people can have this impact in their lives. So I really can relate to what you're saying. I'm curious, since you help people to amplify what they're doing, right? To amplify their why, are you selective in terms of not taking on certain customers? Certain businesses, if they do something that's against your grain. Has this happened before, that you didn't take on certain customers?
For the agency, we screen. So I don't call them prospect meetings. They're prospective client interviews.
Mm-hmm.
We're interviewing them to see if we'll take them on to the agency. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a philosophy that we'll only work on accounts that I'm willing to be a customer of, donate my own money to, or vote for. If I can't say that about the business, we will not represent them. And my clients, my staff can do the same thing. If there's an account that they don't agree with the way that they do things, they don't need to work on that account.
That's amazing. Say this again. So it's if you would donate money to?
Yeah, if I'd be willing to be a customer of, donate my own money to, or vote for. So that's been the case for political and for volunteer or nonprofits and for for-profit customers.
That's an amazing criteria, because like if this is the case, then you can identify with it, you feel good about doing what you're doing, you feel purpose and a why by doing this, and it's going to be much easier to be actually successful with these campaigns and the results that you have to deliver for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
We were not I wish I would have thought about this earlier. We had in the CDN businesses, we had MaxCDN was a content delivery network, and we had in CDN pornography clients is a big deal, and we had this debate internally if we want to take them on or not, and we let our employees vote if they want to do it or not, and so sales guys were all for it because they just see the money, but an engineer maybe has to debug some website that he doesn't really want to be on. So some people are religious and don't want to deal with it. So we really had this, struggled with this if we want to do this or not. And then we came up with that it cannot be more than 10% of the revenue potentially. Like if it's higher than this, then we'll not. Then we'll make the prices. How do you call this? The price is too high that they will not come on board in the first place. But yeah, I like yours much better. I'll incorporate this in my next business.
I mean, I get it. I could probably be a billionaire for things I've said no to. A lot of things, a lot of political campaigns I've been asked to be a part of, a lot of products I've been asked to launch, a lot of media companies I've been asked to work with, but that's not my purpose. So don't get me wrong, I like money. I enjoy the fact that versus when I was totally broke versus now, I like that I can vacation with my family and not worry about it. I like that I can do things for my kids, like put them in whatever sport or dance they want to go into without worrying about writing that check. So I'm very thankful that my life now allows me to have lots of financial blessings, but that will never be my driver. And I knew even when I was struggling, the fact that I said no to things that I really could use the money for, that eventually it would work out in the right way. And that I could never look myself in the mirror, which is the number one thing if I didn't. So that had to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a firm believer if you just apply your entire being to something and want to do good, like somehow you'll be taken care of and things will just work out.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about, working with your partner. My spouse and I don't work in the business together. He does a little bit of financial consulting for us. But he says a separate C-suite level job. And so we're two very driven executives in one home with two kids. But the thing is about us is that I was divorced before, and so was he. And I think it helped both of us. I was married for 8 years. He was married a long time as well. And my first husband wasn't driven, wasn't motivated, was appreciative of what I did, but couldn't share that passion and drive. And I knew if I was going to get married again, it was going to have to be to somebody who met certain criteria in my life. One was he had to love family because I'm a family person. 2, he had to be kind. And 3, he had to be driven and appreciate that I was too. Because there's a lot of driven guys who did not appreciate a hard-working, driven entrepreneur female. And so that was really important. And I am incredibly blessed that I have a partner who not only is supportive, but I can talk about anything with my company with. I talk through big problems with him. He's a sounding board. I do the same for him, and that we're each other's confidants. He's the first person I think of to share my good news with, where I know a lot of my contemporaries don't have that with their spouse. And how much I love what I do, how important it is to me, I could not separate it like other people do. And for me, it had to be part of the overall situation. If it wasn't, I would have a really hard time. There still has to be, now this is controversial statement I'm about to make, there still has to be one person in the marriage, if you have kids, that is the one that is the primary caretaker of the children. Even though we have help, I have a nanny, I have support, I still am the one who's the overall responsible for stuff person. And if you don't do that, it's going to be a constant battle and constant struggle. And I think the children lose out. And so it's not their choice to have parents who are both driven and work. And that's really important to me, that they know that they can always depend on me. If there is a day that I have to cancel something, I will do it to take care of them. And that they have that in me. Now, has he done it when I've had a speaking engagement or I've been traveling? Absolutely. But it's going to be much more likely to be me. It doesn't mean that it has to be the female, but it has to be one of the people in the couple, or else I think, and if you're not clear on that understanding going into it, I think you're going to have a lot of conflicts having kids.
And this is how my Managing Happiness started. I came home from a meeting about the roles and responsibilities in my business, and I was sitting on my couch at home, and my daughter, still in diapers back then, needed a diaper change. And I said, like, hey, honey, look, Emma needs a diaper change. My wife got really upset at me that I didn't change the diapers. I kind of just told her. And I was wondering, like, why are we fighting about this? My wife does it most of the time, changing the diapers, and I'm totally cool with doing it. It's my daughter, like, it's no problem. But what was bugging me is that how should I know that it's my turn at 8 p.m. on this Tuesday or whatever it was, right?
Right.
And then I realized we had never talked about the roles and responsibilities and who's, responsible for what. And the next morning we sat down and spelled it out, what I expect from my wife and vice versa. And this took away all these unspoken expectations that we had from each other, and took away 80% of all the fights that we had in our relationship, and this is when I thought, like, hey, it would make so much sense to apply other business principles to our family life as well. And I think it's super important that, one person, for example, going to the doctor, that one person is responsible for health of the kids, because this one person will be in every doctor visit. This person will make sure that medication is given. So it's like, when there's like too many cooks in the kitchen, like, hey, I thought you gave her the medicine, or like you give it twice, or whatever the heck it is, right? So I think it's really important that there's this clear written down, or at least clearly communicated roles that you have, like in a business. You can't have two people owning the same position, otherwise you'll have just too much confusion. Or you can also not have one person report to two managers. This will also create too much headache.
Absolutely. And I've had to explain that to my kids. I got a great piece of advice years ago from a woman who, her name is Dr. Wanda Filer, and she was the first physician general of the state of Pennsylvania. And she happens to be a good friend of mine, but she obviously has a high profile position. And she talked to me about advice she had gotten from her mom when she found out I was pregnant. And it was that never tell your kids, I have to go to work. Never tell them that you can't do something because you have to begrudgingly do something else. Instead, explain to them that you are a multifaceted human and that you love them. They are the most important thing in the world to you, but you have multiple things in your life that are important. And it is my company, my family, my church, and my friends. And these are all important to me. And so while I love them, I will never spend all of my time with them, because I am there's multiple things that make me and what I am meant to do. And then we'll break that into a conversation about them, how they're meant to do different things. And I've always talked to them about that. And my mom, was an incredible mom, but that was definitely her entire identity. And she almost instilled in me that you have to feel guilty about doing other things than spending time with your children. But I wanted my kids to know from the very beginning, it is not evil or wrong that I have many things in my life, that they are still the center, but that is okay, and that is good and healthy to have multifacets in your life.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I've been struggling with this quite a bit, especially since we moved to Turkey in last December. We lived in LA before, and back then I work from home now, and this makes it very hard to kind of have these boundaries, because my daughter, when she's not in preschool, like today, we have a week off because of the holiday here, and she's like standing in my office all the time, and it's a good piece of advice to how to communicate this to her. How old are you?
Put a lock on the door. That's the number one way not to have issues, because my office is at home as well, and there's a lock on my door. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to talk about this. If I lock the door, she just knocks. How old are your kids now?
5 and 7.
5 and 7. Uh-huh. Do you have family core values that you have defined?
Yeah, we do. Ours are faith-based.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a Christian household, and ours are based on biblical. And the two main ones are love your neighbor as yourself and love your God. And those are the two that we focus on all the time. So that means that everyone is equal, doesn't matter of color, gender, orientation, monetary. Everyone is equal, and we should make them all feel loved and respected. And so that's the number one core value that we talk about in our household. The one that I struggle with the most is my children can basically have what they want all the time. So it's about not giving it to them, and also not allowing them to feel so entitled that they don't work hard and that they still have compassion for others. They definitely have the compassion part down, and they definitely are willing. They have they break their allowance into 3 jars: saving, spend, and give. And so they have that concept that we've been working on, and they get that, and they have no problem putting in the give and the save, and that's fine. But they still are entitled in a way, because that's the family that they're growing up in now, and I didn't have that. So it's a concern I have that they don't have that forever, and that finding a way to make sure that they still can appreciate that you need to work hard in order to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
I think that they will, and I'll find out. My daughter's only 4, but my thinking right now is that they will just learn from seeing what I'm doing, like seeing me working hard, seeing like eating right, seeing me reading books, they will not do what you tell them. They'll rather do what you do by copying you. So I think they will get this down. I'm not too worried about this. And also I like that you have the 3 jars, and that you educate your kids on how to spend money, because this is like something, or how to deal with money, because this is something that's extremely lost in our society, that so many people have no idea how to deal with money. How do you communicate to them when they're not living up to one of these core values? And do you have them spelled out? Do you have like some pictograms on the wall, or like how do you reinforce it on a regular basis? I guess
we have a time at night that we read before they go to bed. And if there's something specific we're trying to work on with personal development with them, I'll generally get a series of books or journals or an activity that will relate back to it, but will be enjoyable to them, so they don't know necessarily what they're about to enter into with the lesson. That has worked well. They're still young enough that works really well. But we all do. And there's a reason why certain faiths have grown so much. If you think about Christianity, there's a reason why there's parables. It's storytelling that we learn lessons. And so I'm always trying to use stories of others that they can relate to in order to work on with them something that will impact them. And that's been huge for my kids. I'll give you one quick one. My older daughter has struggled sometimes with a desire to fit in. And it's just her personality. She doesn't always feel like she does, and she wants to. So something she's striving for. And there was a great analogy about a band, a symphony. And in fact, in that if we had a symphony and all that they had were snare drums, that would sound terrible. Or if all that we had were flutes, that would sound terrible, or piccolos. And so we need all of the instruments to be in the band. And that one illustration changed her life, really. It opened her eyes up that we all need to be who we were created to be and unique to create the beautiful music that happens in an orchestra. And so now I just have to say to her when she's having a rough day, be your flute, play your flute music, Bella. And you could see her spirit lift, right? If I had just given her that lesson of, we were all created unique, you're awesome, you should be, that doesn't do it. But the story is huge. So that's definitely how I try to do it, is through storytelling.
That's awesome. What's your resource to find these things?
I'm a reader. So that's a big part of it. I listen to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books, and then the sermons in my church are amazing that my pastor gives. So those are my top places to be inspired.
Usually I ask this question at the end, but I'm going to ask it now because it really fits in. What are the 3 books that had the biggest impact on your life that you've read?
Definitely first, the Bible. Second would be a very recent book, would be Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets. And the third would be Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine.
I just finished this book. Really amazing.
It's great.
And I think I have the Expert Secrets here, so I'm going to come up.
And if prior to reading Expert Secrets, it would have been the first book I gave you because it changed my direction, which was Dan Kennedy's No BS Direct Marketing book. So I snuck a 4th one in there.
In the EO Fire podcast, you talked about tough times that you went through, and you kind of alluded right now in this podcast as well. How do you deal with stress? Do you have like I assume your faith plays a big role in this, right? To pray, etc. But are there any other, I don't know, tips and tricks is not the right word, but any other?
The secrets to success are coffee, prayer, laughter, and a great team. So that's really it. And what coffee falls in there because I tend to sleep less when I'm achieving big goals. And so I definitely am a big fan of caffeine. But I sometimes deal with it really well. Like I had another book deadline this week and I stayed on target with eating and exercising, and that keeps my stress level low. It makes me feel better. It gives me more energy. And sometimes I'm terrible at it. I don't sleep enough and I eat terribly and I don't do that. So I know it works way better when I do with what I'm doing now. And so what I've needed to do really to keep my stress at a minimum is to be accountable to my behaviors during times of stress. My team and I have actually started a Google spreadsheet that we go over every Friday in our staff meeting of one personal goal to stay accountable to. Nice. And so for me, it's been a fitness and weight loss plan that I'm reporting to them transparently every Friday. And they each have their own. And that's really helped because I can lie to myself and give myself excuses. But if my whole staff I'm going to tell them and I'm trying to be an example, it's made a big difference.
I'm a firm believer that habits are everything in our lives. Our habits determine if we're healthy, unhealthy, broke or successful, happy or unhappy. It's really all about this. I use a habit tracker on my phone where I have like the things that I want to either increase in my life or decrease in my life, and helps me a lot.
It's awesome.
You are when I did research about you, I found your podcast, and I was wondering why you stopped continuing the podcast, and you just told me that you're about to launch a new podcast. Maybe you want to talk about this a little bit?
I did a full 1.5 years of a daily podcast called Facebook Sales Strategies, and it was successful. We got a lot of business in through it. I think it helped a lot of people, but I stopped being super passionate about it because Facebook alone that will not help a business. You can't just do a great ad and have a great business. You need to understand who your market is, your message, be able to drive it into a platform that's going to produce ROI. So I felt I was doing my audience a disservice to just talk about Facebook all the time. So that's why we did a 1.5 years. Then I liked the experience of podcasting. I enjoy being on other people's shows, but I knew when I relaunched, it was going to still be a quick format. I wanted to give content that could be consumed quickly. That was important to me. But I wanted to give quick action strategies that people could use to benefit their business about all sorts of different leads and sales opportunities. So just knew I wanted to do it again, but wanted to reformat it. And we're excited about our new show coming out, The Morning Coffee Marketer, where in 15 minutes a day, you get the jolt of marketing ROI you want to get more leads and sales.
So, and it's a daily show again?
No, it'll be about 3 times a week.
Okay, awesome. Can people sign up somewhere to get the reminder or?
At morningcoffeemarketer.com. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. You're also working on a new book?
My next book, which launches the end of September, it's called Game Changer: How to Get 10,000 Facebook Fans in 72 Hours and Turn Them into Your Next Cash Paying Customers.
All right. That sounds pretty good. I have to work on my Facebook fans.
We could get you 10,000 in 72 hours by going through that program.
I'll sign up. I'll buy the book.
Yeah, it's been great. So that's that funnel piece that I was talking about. So people go through our funnel starting at 3daysto10k.com, and they can go through a 3-day live free training that I get to show them how to get 10,000 fans. And it is during that training, I also share with them that they have value and they were meant to be paid for it. So I get to share my message with them. I give them a very quick win because they get those fans. They feel confident and inspired and energized, and they're ready to go to the next step. So it was a great lesson for me because this has worked so well. It's profitable. We make money on every dollar I spend on this campaign. I get $7.50 back.
Wow.
So it's been amazing. Yeah, it's been amazing profit-wise. And what it really demonstrated to me was that we need to lead with value. I'm giving people value. I'm giving them a measurable win up front. They're much more likely to trust me and take the next step. And instead of asking them to take the whole journey with me at hello, I'm just asking them to try one thing. And it's worked great. And we've encouraged all of our students and clients to do the similar thing. Give folks a win before you ask them to do anything else, not just an ebook or a guide, but an actual win, and then work with them to go to the next step with you.
That's awesome. I'm seriously, I'll buy your book. I'll do it, or I'll take the course. Let me know the next one.
It's going to be free. It's going to be a free book launch, so you won't even have to pay for shipping. It's going to be free on Kindle, so you're fine.
Nice. All right, awesome. This was really cool. Thank you very much. It was very inspiring, and I personally took a lot from it. So I'm sure
I appreciate you having me on the show. It was great. I love what you're doing. I appreciate that you're trying to reach people and help bring them more happiness. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah, let's talk offline how you can amplify my why.
Sounds good to me.
All right, awesome. Thank you.